Let's go. Let's go.
Well, good morning, Church of the Springs. How's life? You good? Me too, man. I'm glad to be here sharing with you today. Grateful to Pastor Ron for the opportunity. Some of you recognize me a little bit. I recognize some of y'all. I used to be on staff here a couple of years ago, but now I attend down at the Middleton campus, and I volunteer down there. And I just want to say to you all, on behalf of that campus, thank you. Over 700 people are showing up there every week now in just 2 months. And it's because of your financial investment, your praying, your encouragement that we've been able to do that and launch that campus. You've been willing to give when actually nobody else was down there to give. And for those who found Christ at Middleton, and we've had dozens find Christ as their Savior, on their behalf, thank you. Eternity will look different for them because of your investment. So way to go, church. Give yourself a hand on that. Well, my wife, Sandy, loves puzzles. Anybody here like puzzles? Ooh, okay, a lot of you do. All right, I don't. I'm good at the 10-piece puzzles. You know, I was pretty fast with my kids when we had those 10-piece puzzles. I could do those, but Sandy likes these 1,000-piece puzzles. And early on in marriage, I said, babe, that's just not me. I don't do puzzles. That might have been why she married me. I'm like in all these pieces, and she figures, there's a project. I can put him together right. I don't know how that's going. You'd probably have to ask her to see how that's turned out. But early in our marriage, she's bringing these out, and I wasn't much help until we had kids. And then suddenly every holiday, you know, it goes out on the table, that 1,000-piece puzzle, and they slowly put it together over the next couple of days. And then one of the best things happened for the puzzle experience of my wife would give the kids was grandkids. Now on vacation, when we're doing it together, she gives each of them their own puzzle. And they put it together that week, and they have some fun. And when they finish it, you know, it takes a while, but when they actually finish the puzzle, there's some pretty cool scenes there, right? Have you seen some of the puzzles, some of the beautiful pictures? But sometimes there's a piece missing, right? It's on the floor, it's under the carpet, or I've got grandsons, they may have eaten it thinking it's food. You don't know. They said they didn't, but I don't know. But when you're missing a piece, the picture just doesn't look right. It's not complete. And that piece, wherever it is, it doesn't make sense by itself. Do you know the church, the connectedness is similar to a puzzle, how we're supposed to fit together? Listen to what Paul says to the church at Corinth in 1 Corinthians 12. Now, several of the New Testament books are written by the Apostle Paul. They're really letters he wrote to the churches he started. I'll be reading from several of them this morning, and this is one that he wrote to a church in Corinth. And he says, the human body has many parts, but the many parts make up the whole body. So it is with the body of Christ. So the body of Christ, that's those who have trusted Christ, make up this spiritual body, this family. And so the local church together, we're a picture to our community of what Christ looks like. We're a picture of how he cares for people. And the fact is, without you being connected, the picture's incomplete. And without you being connected, you're not complete either. You're out there on the side somewhere. So it's just that picture. You know, right now there's an epidemic of loneliness in the United States. Did you know that? Lacking connectedness has several bad effects in life. In fact, if you don't have a connectedness, if you're not in community, it's comparable health-wise to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Surgeon General came out with a report. just before COVID that said about half the adults in the United States experience loneliness at a high level. And the consequences of loneliness and poor connections is a 29% increase in heart disease. It's crazy. 32% increase in stroke and a 50% increase in dementia for aging adults. Now, the good news is, as a church, we can fix that. We're here to help you connect and stay connected. Maybe that's why God said in Genesis 2:18, it's not good that man should be alone. From the very beginning, God wired you. God created us. He designed us to fit together like a puzzle, connected. See, belonging that everybody desires is not just a desire, but it's how God made you. It's how God wired you. You were designed, wired, made to connect. And when you're not connected, life doesn't make sense. Here's the case though, what you get out of your relationship with Jesus will correlate directly to what you put into your relationship with others. Here's a test for you. How connected are you if you missed church for a month? Who'd be texting you? Who would be calling you? You may say, well, I don't know. I mean, the pastor, what? Your connectedness is on you. We have to choose our own connectedness. You have to decide to step into community. We give that option all the time, but you have to make a choice, right? So connectedness is on us. So let's look at the rhythm of that early church's connecting, the rhythm of that early church's belonging. In Acts chapter 2, the early church is getting started. Jesus has just risen from the dead. You've had the day of Pentecost where so many people came to faith, and it's rolling forward. The book of Acts is just a story that's about the history of that early church. So when you're reading that, you just see, this is happening, this is happening. Well, in Acts 2:44, it says, and all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. There was a real mutuality going on. They worshiped together at the temple. Now I want you to pause here. The temple is these temple courts the Jews would go to. The outside courts was where they would meet, these large areas. So they'd meet together like this for a large group. And they did that each day, and then they met in homes. That's the small group. So large group and then small group for the Lord's Supper, and they shared meals with great joy and generosity. And each day, the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. Now here's an interesting thing. In that early church, all these people are coming to faith, right? And they're connecting on both tracks. They're getting together in the large group, and they're connecting eye to eye in that small group. One of our values at the Springs is growing larger and smaller at the same time. Now here's the truth about the Springs right now. We're experiencing some real growth, some of the largest growth we've seen year over year in a long time. God is bringing people our way, and we're just seeing these large attendances. You know, Easter, nearly 9,000 people attended over all 4 campuses. That's amazing. Many people giving their lives to Christ at Easter. And then baptisms, just tons of people getting baptized. In fact, if it was a week ago, on that Saturday, over 40 women stepped up and got baptized. Pretty amazing, right? And some people say, well, Hal, that's just numbers. That's all you care about. You balance your checkbook? Why? It matters. You write a check, or excuse me, you're not writing checks anymore. You pay your credit card bill. Why? Right? Right? Numbers matter. And let me tell you why we care about numbers. Every number represents a person. Every person represents a story. And every single story matters to God. So that's why we celebrate numbers. The Bible says in heaven there's rejoicing when just one person comes to faith. So what's all this mean for me? The first thing I would say this: God made you to belong. He didn't make you to run out by the edges. He wired us, he made us to belong. And it starts with this Sunday gathering. You're here. In fact, when you choose not to connect, there's that unhealthy physical side we talked about, right? emotionally unhealthy as well, and spiritually. All of those are downsides. In the letter to the Ephesians, a book in the latter part of the New Testament, one of these churches that Paul started, he writes them and says, so now you Gentiles. Now let me press the caveat there. Gentiles, in that day you had Jews and you had Gentiles, all right? You were either a Jew or you were a Gentile. So early on, when the gospel began to spread, it spread through relationships, and Jesus was Jewish, so were all of the disciples. So you see this large influx of Jewish believers. But then the Apostle Paul starts preaching and going to places where there were Gentiles, and they're coming to faith. That was the case in Ephesus. So now we go back. So now you Gentiles, you get this, those who weren't Jews, are no longer strangers and foreigners. You get to be part of the family, right? You are citizens along with God's holy people. You are members of God's family. So here's what that means. Every Sunday, it's a chance to get together with your forever family. It's like a family reunion. Now, some of y'all just tilted your head a little bit and thought, family reunion, hell, my family's got some dysfunction. Listen, we all have dysfunction in our family. Some of you are going, well, not me. Every time I go to my family reunion, they talk nice to me. Nobody's mean to me. You know why? You're the dysfunction. They're afraid if they say something wrong, you're going to get ticked and go ballistic. We'll talk a little bit about that more in a minute. So when you choose to belong, you're locking arms with other believers. You're locking hands with them, going through the community with the hope of the gospel. If you've ever seen them search for a lost child in the woods, they join hands. Why? They don't want to miss a spot, and they walk through the woods looking. In fact, several years back, there was a story in the paper that was kind of sad. The little girl was lost, and they finally found her, and she was dead. But here's what the report said in the paper, the headlines. If only we would have joined hands sooner. Don't let that be your story. Join hands. Help your friends find and follow Jesus. Here's the big idea for believers. If you want to step deeper into belonging, show up on Sunday. You're part of the family. You need to be here. We need you here. This place gets off the ground because of hundreds of volunteers every week serving each other. Listen to what Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 25 said. This is a book later on in the New Testament, and he says this, and let us not, what? Neglect our meeting together as some people do, but what? Encourage one another. So here's the picture. Don't neglect this connection. Encourage each other, because when Sunday comes around, when you attend and you make it a priority, not just, well, we don't have to do this, this, or this, I guess we'll go to church. When it's your priority, you're teaching your kids, God matters. Community matters. Connectedness matters, right? We'll worship together. You'll get a chance to serve. You're going to hear a biblical message, and you can encourage each other. So here's the idea. Show up, right? Show up. However, don't let your journey into deeper connection end in this room. There's another step. You need to find your people, right? We all need to get connected in a group. This will sound different, but hang with me. One of the worst things to happen to the church and community was literacy. People being able to read. You're going, why? Well, before people could read, they would connect in groups. And somebody would have the letter that Paul wrote, and they would read it. And people talk about it, and they'd connect around it. Gutenberg comes out with his press, and suddenly there's a Bible, and now people can read, and people are going, you know what? I'll just read my Bible. I don't need community. That's not true. People deciding we don't need a small group because we have the Bible and you opt out. Don't stop at just connecting in this room. We all need each other, right? When you opt out of small groups, you opt out of the care for Church of the Springs. There's not enough pastors around here to care for everybody. It's the small groups. It was August 1998. Our family every year would do what's a family vacation where we were all married with kids, and my parents would put us up at a motel or a hotel on the beach. And we, as we went there, would all laugh and have a lot of fun with the kids. And we were back from that, and I get a call from my mom. And she said, you know, your dad was having that back pain. I said, yes, ma'am. Well, he had an x-ray, and they found a mass. I said, okay. She said, and the doctor wants to talk to us about it this week. Can you make it up? Absolutely. So we go in that room with the doctor, and I still remember her sitting there, my mom and my dad and myself there. And she says, Mr. Mayer, bad news, it's small cell cancer. And small cell cancer is not something you can operate and cut out. It spreads throughout the body. She says, we can treat it, but the best hope we have is we can extend your life about 2 years. But this is going to take your life. That was tough. I mean, I'm thinking, how can I encourage my parents? What can I do with my brothers and sisters, my mom? And I'm driving home to South Florida, which is about a 5-hour drive, and I'm praying, I'm crying, I'm trying to figure out what in the world am I going to do? What in the world can we do? And I arrived back home, and I still remember sitting there on the couch in my living room, and about 6 guys walk in the door. And they just sit and listen to me and encourage me and let me cry. Nobody's trying to fix me. Nobody's giving me Bible verses that say you don't need to struggle with this. They were just there. And they continued to be there over the next 2 years. It made a difference in my life. It made carrying that possible because I had other people helping me. See, a lot of folks say, well, we're just too busy to connect. I've got ball games, I've got this. Well, you're too busy. Or I'm an introvert. I'm not comfortable meeting new people. And we create these excuses, right? And barriers to connection. I just can't. Well, here's one solution to your I can't. Watch the screen. You know, sometimes you just need to jump into community. However, some of you may struggle with it. Maybe you get a friend to throw you in, right? We need community. It's in community you experience authenticity. You're known for who your strengths are and your weaknesses, your cracks and your crevices, and all the issues you may be struggling with. Authenticity, though, is not an excuse to point out everybody else's sin and failure. It's an opportunity for you and I to be honest about where we struggle, honest about what's going on in our life. See, a lot of people today are into Christian cosmetic surgery. We want to try to cover up our faults. We want to try to hide our failures. And the result is we live fake lives. We're only as connected as we are authentic. Let me say it this way. For real authenticity to happen, we need to normalize failure. What do you mean, Hal? Just give people excuses? Just encourage sin? That's not what I'm saying. We know the Bible says we've all sinned, correct? Why is it we act so weird when somebody sins and we go, I can't believe they did that? Really? We just make mistakes and we've got to normalize it. Go ahead and expect people to make mistakes because we've all sinned. Once we normalize failure, we can normalize forgiveness. Does that make sense? Once you admit that nobody's perfect, then you can expect to have to forgive. And for yourself, for me, when I normalize failure in my life, I don't expect me to live perfectly. I understand when I fall down, I don't need to live in that pit of condemnation or shame or guilt. I can receive forgiveness. Galatians 2, another one of those letters Paul wrote to the early church. Share one another's what? Burdens, and in this way, obey the law of Christ. See, we can't share one another's burdens if we're not close enough to know what the burdens are. When I normalize failure in other people's lives, I don't put God-like expectations upon them. I understand they're human like me, which allows me to forgive them quicker when they do mess up. Because we're all called to be accountable, to help one another, call one another out, to step in the way when somebody's making a beeline to the pit. But none of that's possible if we can't be honest and authentic with each other. If I can't sit across from someone else and admit I fail and you can't do that, you're never going to have authenticity. Some might say, I don't need community to follow Jesus. That's not found in the New Testament. As you read through the New Testament, you don't find anywhere that it says it's a good idea for you to be off somewhere and never connect with people. In fact, someone coming out of the mountains after 40 years alone with their Bible, no one expects them to be normal, right? They're just weird. If that's you, you can see me later. See, the Bible has commands about how we're to treat one another, and you can't do those if you're not in community. Love one another, care for one another, forgive one another, sharpen one another. There's over 59 different times in the New Testament we've got a command attached to one another. And we can't be obedient to the one another commands without each other. You can't do it. I can't do it. All right, married people. Why is it the more challenging marriage gets, the more arguments you have, you tend to pull away from community? As if the two people that found themselves stuck in this position know the best way out. You got yourselves there. Marriages are healthier when they grow in community. Single people, why is it every time you get a serious boyfriend or girlfriend, you just kind of disappear? I mean, all of a sudden, the most important decision in your life, and you're kind of pulling away because you're afraid somebody may not like them. And you may say, well, how? All my friends are dumb. Okay, get some new ones, right? Get some new friends. Because Proverbs 13 says, walk with the wise and become what? All right, we all need wise people in our life. We all need community. Now, I've been a pastor for over 40 years, and I'll hear excuses, but the number one excuse I hear sounds something like this for why they're not in community. Hal, you don't understand. I've been hurt by the church. What they really mean is I've been hurt by people, because not everybody in the church has hurt them, right? And I get it. Church hurt's real. There's been some harsh things said. There's been some hard decisions made. And I'm not talking from the stage. I'm talking about from people in other people's lives. It's one of the biggest reasons younger people now are deconstructing their faith. Well, I left the church because of this person said X or that person said X. Church hurt's really people hurt. There's a lot of you that have family hurt, but it's not your whole family. It's a person. Work hurt. Not everybody. It was probably your boss terminated you. Do you know that pastors probably experience more church hurt than anybody? That's surprising to you, maybe. I was in Tampa starting a church, and we had a lady come to Sandy and myself, and she said, hey, listen, my husband's coming next week. Would you pray that he's willing to come back again? He's not a believer. Great. So he comes, he decides it's okay, and he starts coming. After a couple months, he checks the box on that Connect card that says, I committed my life to Christ. Well, we start reaching out, trying to help him follow next steps. Soon he's baptized. His wife is ecstatic. She's so excited that he's finally come to faith and coming to church because he never liked coming before. About a year into it, I start a group for men early in the morning. And it's a challenge group. I talk straight to men's issue. I don't put any polish on it, no varnish. I mean, direct. Don't let anybody record it either. And the guys were loving it and connecting and holding each other accountable. And this guy goes home and he tells his wife, he's so excited what's going on, tells her what's going on. She gets offended that I would say that. Again, it's not a mixed community, but there you go. She gets offended. And she decides we need to find a church that doesn't act like that, or the pastor's not like that. And I'm thinking, we spent all this time. and I get the email that says we're leaving. Ouch. I've had people go after me on Facebook, misrepresenting what I said. Ouch. Now, some of you are feeling real close to me right now. But before you get too close, I'm not innocent in this. I've also created church hurt. I've also done things that have hurt people. Guess what? So have you. I was going to a men's meeting in Tampa, about 100 men from the church I was at South Florida, and we were going up there, and we'd gone in all different cars. And I rode up with an older guy who wanted me to drive, and so we tried to park close by, and I said, listen, I need to run inside because the guys are gonna be looking for a place to collect and connect. And I said, meet us in section C. So he's coming in with his cane, he makes it in, and we've got our section. It goes great, we go home, everything seems fine. 2 years later, I go to visit him in the hospital. He's dying of cancer. And when I walk in the room, he said, I've decided to forgive you. I said, tell me what you mean. He said, well, 2 years ago, I felt like you just abandoned me. You didn't care. You just walked off and left me. Now, it wasn't time for me to explain what happened and why. It was time for me to apologize. So I apologized to the guy, and I owned that. And I realized there's people along the way that I've hurt. Jesus experienced people hurt, church hurt. One disciple betrayed him. Another denied him. Others pulled away. Jesus gives them another shot. Here's what I'm saying. We shouldn't be surprised when we experience hurt. We need to have a conversation and learn how to walk in forgiveness rather than merely walking away. So I'm going to say it this way, and maybe attention for you. Church hurt's normal. It's how we respond that needs to change. It's normal for people to hurt you, okay? So if you've been hurt, you're a part of the human race. Congratulations. But how we respond has got to change. Anger, bitterness, pulling away. Listen to what Colossians, again, Paul wrote to this early church. Make allowances for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Sounds like hurt to me. And then he says, remember, the Lord forgave you. So about the time we get on our high horse and decide, they did that, I'm not going to connect, God's reminding us, look what you did and I forgave you, right? So you're going to pass that on. If you've been married for more than a minute, you understand forgiveness is necessary. If you have friends, you understand forgiveness is necessary. I'd say it this way, some hurt is huge. And if it's abuse, that's got to be dealt with. But most of the church hurt I hear about, most of the people hurt I hear about is little things. Gossip, they didn't invite me in, they didn't see me, they didn't come talk to me. So when we normalize failure, we can normalize forgiveness. That make sense? When I normalize church hurt, I can get busy on forgiveness. In Mark chapter 2, there's a story that unpacks. These 4 guys are trying to get their buddy to Jesus to be healed. He's crippled. So there's 5 of them. I guess they're a small group. They get to the house where Jesus is, and they can't even get in. The house is so packed. So they climb up on the roof, and in that day, they had these dirt roofs. So they got him on the edge of a blanket, and they're digging a hole. Can you imagine you're the owner? You're already partly ticked because all these people in your house have broken your IKEA furniture, right? And suddenly you look up, and there's dirt falling from the ceiling. And you're thinking, maybe Jesus can heal a roof. I don't know. Then you see this guy being lowered down on a blanket. Jesus heals him. That's the small group in action. So my question is, who's carrying you? Who's got the corner of that blanket when you need help? And what blanket are you grabbing? Who's on the blanket that you're trying to help? Here's why you and I need community. Sometimes you're holding the corners, and sometimes you're on the blanket. What's your next best step? What are you going to do with this message? Everybody pull out that Connect card, would you? Luke mentioned earlier, grab that Connect card. I've got a couple things I want you to write on there. First thing is, where do you start? If you're not connected here at all, I want to help you get on the pathway. We have that Connect dinner May 5th from 4 to 6 p.m. That's a Sunday night. Dinner served. Write Connect Dinner on there, and we'll get back in touch with you. Maybe you need to make a decision to show up every week. Maybe it's decide you're going to jump in a small group or come out in the lobby and let somebody throw you into one, right? Make a note on your Connect card about your next step. Now, this may sound new to a lot of you, and you're thinking, how this whole authenticity thing, that's a different level. I'm not sure I'm up on all that. Here's what I'll say. It all begins with a relationship with Jesus Christ. I committed my life to Christ when I was 16 years old and began this journey. It was the beginning, not the end. Began this journey of following him, learning how to live in community, learning how to forgive, learning how to grow. If you want to start your journey today, and again, this is not the end decision, it's the beginning decision. It's the front end. I invite you to pray this prayer silently that I'm going to pray out loud. Would everybody bow their heads with me, please? Now, as I pray this prayer out loud, if you're going, yeah, I want to start my relationship with Jesus today, you can pray this silently to God right where you sit. Dear Jesus, thank you for loving me. Thank you for dying for my sins. I trust you to forgive me right now. I ask you to take my life and do what you want with me. I want to follow you. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.